It's time to stitch out the ice cream bar of our 2 scoops bench pillow. The ice cream bar is on page 21. I have the fabrics backed with fusible interfacing and I have the batting. This uses a couple items from the embellishment kit. To stitch out the ice cream bar, it's this coppery brown leather. And then there are 2 options for the stick. You can choose to stitch the stick of the ice cream bar, embroider that on, or if you did get the embellishment kit, it has a little stick that will be put on, of course, at the end of the quilt, and that's the option that I'm going to choose. I also cut my little ice cream piece of the ice cream bar with my ScanNCut, and I do have a video that I'll link below to show how I cut that. But that is totally optional, and you can always just do the regular applique method. So let's get started on the ice cream bar. I have finished the popsicle, and it was so fast using that pre-cut applique piece from doing the pre-cuts on the ScanNCut. So now, since I'm on my last piece of this strip and I have just this section up here, I don't want this to go to waste. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch out the ice cream bar on top. I've combined the ice cream bar and the background quilting in Brilliant software, and so now let's go add it to our machine. So now that I'm done stitching this popsicle, I need to go to return so that I can add my new embroidery file. I'm going to leave the popsicle there for now. I am going to go to my USB, and this time I'm going to my combined files folder, and I'm going to choose the ice cream bar. Now, I didn't show this on this video. I have a lot of videos that show where I just combine the background quilting, which is the lines 5. Then I added the ice cream bar without the stick. And then I deleted that second and third step of the background quilting. And that's how I've done it in the other blocks that I've done on Embrilliance. And so that is just one block that I will then hit set. And you can see it comes in centered, and I need to move it up so it doesn't get caught on the popsicle block. And so that's why I left this one design on the machine. So that is selected because that's the last one that I brought in. And so I'm going to go to edit and move that block up. It doesn't really, I can go all the way to the top because I don't have any more stabilizer to save. Otherwise, I probably would have tried to put them closer together. So I'll select OK. And so now I know that that's not going to interfere with my popsicle. I am going to select that and hit delete and select OK. And remember, these were brought in separately, and so I have to do both of them together. They were not combined in Embrilliant software. So that is selected, and I will hit delete. So now I'm ready to stitch out the ice cream bar. I will select embroidery, and I will start with the placement of the batting. I will put the batting and the fabric down. I will tack the fabric down and then do the background quilting. So after the quilting, I did the placement for the little piece of ice cream. And again, this is the piece that I cut with my ScanNCut. I'm going to flip it over and just use a little bit of the glue-based and then just iron it so it won't move when it's stitching, because I'm not going to be using the tack down because it is basically cut to size, and that is similar to what I do with the batting. So I am going to just, line it up. Remember, I made this slightly larger, so I just want to make sure to cover. And then I'm going to bring my iron over, And I'm just going to heat set that to dry that glue. Now the next step is the tack down of that little ice cream piece. And I have that already cut to size, and I glue basted and iron that down. And so I am going to skip this step. I did not take it out in software. So I will just use my down arrow, and it will move to the satin stitching of the ice cream. Now I'm not sure you can tell, but it only does kind of like a big U of satin stitching, because this top piece that has kind of the little waves in this little ice cream piece will be covered with the chocolate leather. So let's start that. So here is that leather piece, and remember, I don't cut any of my embellishments typically to size, so I am just going to hold this up in the corner, making sure I cover the placement line. Now this will be raw edge applique, so I need to make sure that I have a little bit over so that I have room to cut, and that should be good. And so now I will tack this down. Now in the directions it says to go ahead and cut this as desired. It's raw edge applique again, so it will not have any additional stitches. And the last stitches will be the little nuts. And so I like to cut this, if at all possible, when it's completely out of the hoop. And since there will be no other stitches that overlap the edge, I'm going to wait to cut this. So let's finish this ice cream bar. So the block is done. There is one little jump stitch that I will cut, but I want to note something, that in the embroidery file, there is one last step, and it's these little corners. And these are, per the directions, part of the trimming guides. But the interesting thing is, you can't really easily tell on the screen on the machine, but when I was in Embrilliance, you can see, because you have a much larger picture to see. These fall exactly on the outer corners, the two corners of the tack down. And so basically they are going to literally stitch right over this basting on this corner, and then it would be in this top corner. And honestly, I'm not really sure why they did that. Again, this is an older pattern, and so maybe they were doing things different. Maybe they didn't have the pop rulers back then. I'm not really sure. I am skipping that because I have the pop rulers, and I can use this guide to make sure everything's lined up. But that is in the directions to stitch those two little squares, or corners I should say, for the trimming. All right, since I don't need those, I am just going to skip. I don't have to, but that gets me done and out, and I'm ready to cut these blocks to size. So after taking it out of the hoop, I just trimmed with my little scissors, and about 1/8 of an inch away. And again, I like to do that out of the hoop if at all possible. And then we have the embellishment button that we will put on at the end of the quilt. Now this does have quilting that goes into the seam allowance. Here is my batting line, and then here is part of the quilting, and then the tack down. So I'm not going to remove the muslin because no matter what I do, there will be a little bit in the seam allowance. So I will just take my little 4.5-inch ruler, and I will use that tack down as just a guide to center and cut.